Good morning guys, what is up? I hope you're having an amazing day and welcome back to the videos where today I've had a whole lot of questions asked about my Ford Falcon, whether it's through comments, through Instagram requests, or who knows what else. But today I have a whole sort of compilation of questions that a lot of you guys have asked me over the months about my 2008 Ford Falcon FG XR6 Turbo. So I actually have made one of these videos in the past in regards to how much I have spent on this car and exactly everything that I've done to it, but I don't think I've done one since I've had 620 horsepower, and that's what a lot of people, or a lot of these questions are referring to. So today I'm going to answer a whole heap of your questions hopefully, and not only that, but go through every single modification I've done to this Ford Falcon right here, how much everything cost, so you guys can get a good idea of everything. And I'm going to be really open in regards to what was sponsored, what was partially sponsored, and what was not sponsored, everything that I've spent personally, everything that you guys could spend on this part, and how much everything costs, and just do a full build breakdown right here. So let's get straight into it. Rightio, so to start off this list right here, which is a very extensive list as you guys can see, we'll start off with the cost of the car. Now the car, which is right behind me at the moment, cost me $12,500 to buy. The car was mechanically A1. It had a few weird imperfections with the exterior, but yeah, $12,500 at 187 or 189,000 Ks on it. And since then, it has now gone up to 217,000 kilometers. So I've done a fair few Ks in this car, and then it's been all the way down to Melbourne and back. It has been to Sydney, God knows how many times, Newcastle how many times. Also, it was my daily driver around Brisbane for 2 years before I got my job with YouTube. So yeah, I'm super stoked. I love this thing. Yeah, once again, sorry, let's get started with the exterior. Rightio, so starting off today's video, we are going with the wheels. So the wheels were the first thing that I did to this car. It was also on my old NA. These wheels right here are a set of Rotogrid Rs. They are a 19 by 9.5 plus 15. They have a really nice offset. They really complement the car. Nice and simple design, and these are just in a hyper black with a polished lip. And those right there cost me $1,800 for the rims. Now, for including tires on top of that as well, this right here is just a cheap set of tires. It's a $400 set of tires. Nothing crazy, but I'll also add that to the list too. Now, to go with that, I had to do two things to the rear of this car so that my wheels would actually fit, and they were one, camber arms, and two, I had to roll the guards. So the guard rolling for the two rears cost me $250. A guy came out and did them. And then also the camber arms supplied and fitted, I believe it's by the same company that make XYZ coilovers, and they were $450. So there is a few parts in this list that are actually not on the car that I'm not going to include in the final total, but still include in how much I've spent on this car over time. So originally this thing had XYZ coilovers. Now these coilovers were supplied by Royal Auto Styling, and they were $1,500. So they're not on the car anymore, but yes, they were $1,500 on my car. And now since then, I've gone with a set of MCA coilovers. So they were $2,200 to install. However, I was also partially sponsored for that. And so looking around the car right now, there's not really much else aesthetically that I've done to this car. The main difference being is that it has had very extensive like paint restoration. So this car went through a full paint restoration with flash detailing that cost me $1,600. This thing looks so insane. I think it's got with 4 custom layers of coating at the moment, and this thing, it beads up so beautifully. There's no swirls whatsoever. This car is, oh man, it's just so perfect. I love it. Now in the front right here is another couple of things that I've done, and that is we've put in Angel Eye headlights from Mars Performance, and then we also have some Angel Eye fog lights. Now the headlights I believe are $450 and the fog lights were $150. I don't think they actually make those fog lights anymore, but yes, so that whole kit right there, $550. And not only that, we also have the Mackie-Lek badgeless grill. So this is just a stainless grill that sits in the factory location, and I'm not quite sure exactly how much this is. It was sponsored, but I'll quickly throw up the price right on the screen right there. So I guess the only other thing we can include for the outside of the car, or so what we can see, is the brakes. Now I've had 2 different sets of brakes on this car so far, and I'm going to include this all in my total build price because I've gone up one step and then the step after that. First of all, we went with a full set of VMAX J-Hook 322mm front rotors and J-Hook 328mm rear rotors. That was also with a set of PBR rear brakes, which are the turbo brakes, which are $100, which are still on the car right now. So the front rotors were $182, The rear rotors are $193. The EBC yellow stuff pads I was using at the front at the time was $212, and the same for the EBC yellow stuff pads on the rear, also $212. Now since then, I have also gone to a Brembo kit. Now the Brembo, the full kit, brakes, pads and rotors I managed to get really cheaply, which was $1,000. So as you guys can see right there, nice big set of 4-pot Brembos up front, and then on the rear we have the PBR upgrade, which comes standard on, I believe, all the F6s. And not only that, my personal set is actually off a Ford Territory that was being wrecked close by. So yeah, basically this has now the Brembo factory upgrade, which is cool. Alright, so let's jump into the interior. Alright, so one of the biggest things you guys can do to the interior of your Ford Falcon is changing up the ICC. Now in the XR6 and the XT, I believe, there would have been an option to go with a color screen. However, not a lot of them actually came with one. They came with a black and white screen in the Mark 1. So I went up, spent $250 and got this beautiful color screen right here. So much nicer than the black and white screen. And then not only that, but I painted all of this, but I'll include that a little bit later. So $250 for the color ICC. Now the next thing I went with was these dash spears right here. These ones right here are a set of limited edition out of the XR50, and they are a dark carbon look. I think they're just hydrated from factory, but they have this amazing gold flake through them. But yeah, they just look like carbon. They look really cool. So yeah, I love them. And I got my set really cheap, and it was $100. Usually these go for about $250. Alrighty, so not only that, but before we actually stripped the whole interior, we got the entire thing tinted. Now this right here was done with 18% ceramic tint all round, and then we have a 70% ceramic tint on the windscreen. Now all of that there, I remember it being pretty expensive, but I think it was around about $650. Now I won't include this price in the list, but I actually got a brand new windscreen whilst I was doing the tint. My other one was cracked up and chipped, and I didn't want to obviously tint that, so I ended up getting a new windscreen, tinting it before we actually put it on the car, and I think that was about $150, I can't remember, but yeah, $650 to ceramic tint the entire car. Alrighty, so then we get into painting, and I actually got these two sets of trims right here painted, being the ICC cover, the FPV push start, which actually came with my car, which I was super happy about, plus the gear selector surround. All of that was all painted in piano black. Now it's a little bit dusty at the moment, I haven't washed the car in a while, but all of this right here I managed to get painted professionally for $50. I also got sponsored some brand new boots, which actually have this awesome texture on them, which are actually made of genuine leather. They also have Breeze stitching in them, which I love, and yeah, they look sick. But these are actually sponsored. I'm not exactly quite sure how much they were actually selling for, but yeah, these were sponsored. These are sick. But I'll chuck a price up on the screen right now for you guys. Now a few months back, after doing those basic interior mods, we went through this entire car whilst it was down getting its new transmission put in, and we completely stripped out the entire interior on this thing. Now we did a couple of things. One, we did a huge amount of sound deadening. We also painted all of the trims up here all black, and then we also put in a starlight roof, which you guys can see right now. Oh, plus we also did the sub underneath the passenger seat. So the black roof lining I actually managed to find secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, which was $100, absolute steal. Re-wrapped black would have been about $200 to $300. The paint to paint all of these trim bits right here was $20. That was absolutely nothing. Now the starlight module, so I could put all the fiber optic things in the roof and everything, the entire kit right there was $200, I think $200 to $250. I think it was more so $250 because I got the one that like makes all the lights shine and do random crazy things. Plus I can also use it from my app. So I think I actually ended up getting that one there. Plus it had longer fibers, and I had 300 of them. So there are 300 fibers in that roof somewhere, and it looks sick. It looks really cool. The sound deadening, I ended up using 60 square foot of Pingjing sound deadening. Actually, no, I think it was 120 square foot of Pingjing sound deadening. And all up for 2 packs right there was $450. Rightio, so now I'm gonna jump into the engine bay and just go through the entire driveline, exactly what we've done, and what I did to make 440 horsepower, and then what I did to make 620. So, yeah, this is where it starts getting really expensive. here is where stuff gets pretty and very expensive at the same time. So at the moment, my 2008 Ford Falcon FG XR6 Turbo on 21 PSI, stock bottom end, is making 620 horsepower. I think that roughly equates to 450 something kilowatt, something around the lines of that. And yeah, it's an absolute beast. 620 on E85 and 500 on 98. So at the moment it's currently sitting on 98, and 500 is more than enough on this thing. It's absolutely amazing, absolute weapon. I love it. So yeah, let's jump into the engine mods. Rightio, so the first thing that we did to this engine right here was get a Mackie-Lek turbo side intake. Now these retail for I think $495 to $550, and it completely transforms the way that this car sounds and feels on the road. Hearing that little 3576 spool up is just amazing. It was one of the best things I've ever done to my car, and Mackie's been a huge supporter of this channel. So Mackie actually partially sponsored this right here. Now along with that, we've also had 3 different exhaust systems in this car. The first one was a 3.5 inch X4 system, and that one right there I got it secondhand off Marketplace for $350, and that was good enough to do me until I went with a different exhaust system. Not only that, but we also have on this car right here an Ants Performance intercooler piping kit. Now this one right here goes from that horrible plastic into an alloy kit. This one here was actually sponsored by Ants, so thank you very much Ants. Once again, another massive big brand that was able to help out on this car right here. And at the time of buying it, this kit here was $300. So I'm not quite sure whether it's the same price, but that's how much I spent. Connecting to that intercooler piping kit is my black Plasma Man Stage 1 intercooler, which I think is about 800 horsepower rated or 700 horsepower rated. I'm not quite sure, but that there was $880, which was actually sponsored by my friends at the time, who all pitched in for my 21st birthday and actually got me it. And it was just, it was so insanely nice of them. Like, honestly, I cannot thank them enough. This car here also had a $300 Walbro 460 installed in it at the time when it was making 440. Not only that, but we have a set of Bosch 1000cc injectors, which I picked up secondhand from a friend of mine for $300 once again. So after I actually did the X4 system on this car, I didn't like it at all. It was on there for about 2 days, and after I did sort of all those other mods in the engine bay, we completely got rid of it. We put the stock section back in, and then we went to go see my good friend Dan at Elite Exhaust and Fabrication in Brendale, and he hooked me up with a set of quad tips right here. So we actually dumped it straight after the diff, and we made 2.25 or 2.5 inch sections out to 3.5 inch quad tips right here. This looks so nice. Basically what it does is, yeah, we cut it straight after the diff, 2.5 inch sections to 2 hot dogs to 3.5 inch quad tips. Sounds amazing, and that is where we kept it for its 440 tune, and that right there was $660 to fabricate. Oh, and we also got a Venom High Flow Cat, which was I think $30 at the time I picked up secondhand, and yeah, we put that in the day just before we got the Sing Tune. Alright, so after we did all of those engine mods is the time that we went to Real Dyno in Redcliffe. They have been the only ones to ever tune this car. Massive thank you to them, because they've always been able to help out no matter what I want every single time. This was also, I believe, the second car in Australia that was using the prototype ECM Tech system, which utilizes the cruise control to change tunes, and that was $1,500. I've had 3 transmissions through this car. Yeah, let's get straight into that actually. That's gonna be funny. So my first All Aussie day with the new power ended up flaring from 3rd to 4th. So I said, okay, we'll see if we can find a cheap transmission somewhere, and we'll see how we go. Ended up getting a brand new transmission for this car. Came out of an F6 that had 40,000 Ks in it, and I ended up blowing that thing up basically a month after I went even faster. So this thing has had 3 transmissions through it. So I'm gonna quickly let you guys know just how much that was. First trans obviously in the car came with the car. Second trans was $1,700 fitted. The third trans is a Gilroy's built automatic, which is 750 horsepower rated, comes with a cryo shaft, and that right there was $5,000. That is correct, $5,000. The single most expensive thing I have ever bought for any of my cars. Yeah, it still hurts me to this day, but I know of a few people that are getting away with having stock transmissions and stuff like that. I tried my luck, worked out for a month. Apparently stock transmissions, stock drivelines don't like Mickey T ET streets. So yeah. So after we ended up getting its first tune, we ended up doing a few other little things to this car just to make it nice. First of all, we ended up getting a power steering relocation kit from Maculec, which put it all the way up the back, but then I did a burnout once, ended up destroying my power steering pump, and I just couldn't get it bled up the next time. I know it would have been easy, but I was going through power steering pump after power steering pump, much to my fault because I kept going with second-hand pumps and not getting the right parts I needed. So I ended up just getting rid of this sort of whole setup, but I have gone with a relocation and then gone back to the stock setup just so I can utilize this little cover that I have made up here, and it's just a nicer system to bleed up. And it was just an easy system to bleed up. I originally was going to put it back on, but I just haven't had time yet. Everything is still sitting in my garage ready to go. I just have to redo it. However, I think if I was to redo it, I'm probably going to put some braided lines all the way up through the back, but I won't get into that just yet. Oh yeah, and that power steering relocation was $250. Now, not only then, whilst we were there at Maculec Industries, he also installed his beautiful kit up the front here, which is the oil feed and the coolant feed to the turbo. So at that time I originally had the 3576. Everything also fit up to my new precision turbo as well. But yeah, this kit right here, absolutely stunning kit as you guys can see. And that kit right there, if I quickly bring up my little price list, equals $520. Now, whilst I was also visiting Mackie down in Melbourne, we also went via Ants, and he had this beautiful prototype Ants throttle body elbow. If you guys know much about these Falcons, you'll know that this elbow right here was plastic, and it always shoots up straight into the bonnet. And as you guys can see, my heat shield right there, or whatever the sound deadening thing is that's here, has saved my bonnet a few times. There is a small, very slight dent in the bonnet where basically you build too much boost and it just goes straight up into the bonnet. It's not a fun time. Definitely recommend going out and getting one of these. And that right there at the time was $190. So yes, after all my horrible issues with power steering, I got a new power steering pump, which was $110. So here is where things get extremely juicy. We went from 440 horsepower, and one of my mates actually ended up unfortunately riding off his beautiful 700 horsepower Falcon. Had a built engine, built driveline, the car was immaculate. But yeah, the amazingly nice bloke that he is actually helped me out. He was getting a new car at the time. Max was putting in his supercharger, and he's like, dude, you're gonna be the only car that's under 500 horsepower. Let's do something about that. So pretty much a lot of this stuff that's about to come on this list was sponsored by him. Well, I wouldn't say sponsored, he was just doing it out of the kindness of his own heart. But we went with a brand new Precision 6235 Turbo. Now this one right here, I believe it's designed to be the in-between between the 3582 and the 3576 that's come standard on the XR6 and the F6. This turbo right here is absolutely amazing, has an anti-surge front, sounds incredible, has a beautiful dose to it, and that beautiful ball bearing turbo sound. I love everything about it, but if you guys were to go out and purchase that turbo, it would cost you around about $2,200. Now, not only that, it also needed to be externally gated because it didn't come with an internal wastegate. So if I quickly bring up my little parts list right here. So we went with a Turbo Smart 50mm gate, which he also had lying around there, which retails for about $450. Now with this new gate setup, we also had to go with an external or internal gate. We were either going to plumb it all the way back in to the brand new 4-inch dump, advanced headers dump, which I think I paid $400. But we also had to basically, yeah, as I said, route in that external wastegate or that Turbo Smart gate that was sitting there. So we ended up getting a removable gate setup, which can go from internally gated to externally gated in the matter of about 2 minutes with 2 V-bend clamps. Once again, was done by my good friends down at Elite Exhaust in Brendale. I ended up getting all that work done for my car for $750. But not only that, my friend also had a exhaust section lying around, which went from my stock midsection after the dump, going into a high flow cap, and then going into a 3.5-inch midsection. Now, not only that, but when you start pushing this sort of power, you can also do it at 440 or when you first go in for your tune, but valve springs and head studs. I went with a set of atomic valve springs and atomic head studs, which were fitted by the man himself, Gene. The head studs were $650 and the atomic valve springs were $360. Now these were also partially sponsored by my good friends down at Long Boost Performance. Now, just before we went out and got this thing tuned, my friend also had a 525 pump lying around so we could put in this thing. I was originally just going to leave the 460 pump. The 460 pump would have been fine. However, going with a 525 pump is going to sort of future-proof it. It wasn't going to be working as hard, and it was just, you know, he had it there, so we may as well do it anyway. So the 460 pump came out of this. We put a 525 in. Now, the installation was done by Real Dyno. However, that pump right there, if you guys were to go out and grab it, would be $220. So after that, we then went into Real Dyno once again and we got this thing tuned. So the tune would have cost me between $1,500 and $1,750. However, once again, they also partially sponsored it. Once again, they've been a massive help. Real Dyno has been a massive help to this whole car. And that was for the PCM Tech E85 and 98 tune that took me to 620 horsepower and 500 horsepower on 98. So I think it's my entire list done. I'm not quite sure. I'm gonna go through the whole list, and if I didn't pick up on anything whilst I was going around the car, I will quickly update you guys right now, and yeah. Alright, so the breeze covers right here. Oh, this breeze cover right here was $90 to paint, and then also ended up getting sort of like, where is it? Like all these covers and everything from DC Engineering. He actually sponsored this whole thing, and went really well. But I think this whole kit, if you were to get the whole kit for your car, would be around about $250 to $300. Now, not only that, I also ended up getting an Aeroflow coolant overflow reservoir. That right there, I bought it for a friend of mine for $300. Oh, and I also ended up getting a full set of Brakes Direct braided brake lines all around. It was $230 to get the first round of lines, and then I had to get another $150 set of lines to go for the front for the brand new Brembo. So I'll include that all in the list as well. Now, random little stuff I've also done to this car. I've also fixed up the AC on this car. When I first put in the intercooler, I didn't put it in correctly. Ended up going straight through my AC condenser. So we ended up getting a brand new AC condenser. It was $120, and then to regas it was an extra $100. So I'll include that in the list too as to how much I've spent on this car. Oh, and also, I don't know whether I mentioned before, but the sub was $250. It sits underneath the seat, so that's also going to be included too. And I think that pretty much covers the entire car. If I forget anything, I'll chuck it up on the screen right now just as an overlay, because there wouldn't be too much more happening. But that is just how much I've spent on this Ford Falcon right here. Now I'm going to jump back home, do all the calculations, and then probably cry. But yeah, this thing has been, well, it was my dream car since it was about, I don't know, 11 or 12 years old. I've wanted it for so many years. I'm so glad to finally own it. Yeah, it's just a beautiful car. Let's get home. Let's tally up some prices. Righto guys, so I'm back home at the moment. I've just finished editing the entire video, and then I went through and added all of the prices of everything that I said in this video, which isn't including some of the stuff that I had on the car and then took back off and put better parts on. So everything today that I've spoken about in the video that I said I would include came to a grand total of $43,099. That is certainly a way bigger jump than I originally thought, but please do keep in mind that a lot of this car, about 10% of the parts in this car were sponsored, and then some of the parts in this car were given to me just from, you know, friends just being extremely nice to me, and just wanting to see me succeed with the whole YouTube game and everything else as well. So this car is just a massive big collaboration of so many different brands, myself included, just trying to put basically every single cent when I was working back at my old job, plus, you know, trying to sort of get stuff on from when I was doing the Skyline to the Falcon, and just the whole 2 years of YouTube that I've been working on this car. It's been just wicked. It's been cool to build this car with all of you guys. Try to do as much work of it as I possibly can myself. Fail along the way, win along the way. And at this current point in time, I have what is one of my dream cars in the garage. Now, if I was to include absolutely everything that I've ever put on my car, it's probably going to be up over the $50,000 mark. But yeah, there you go. Now, that is not to say that it's going to cost you $50,000 to build a Ford Falcon at 600 horsepower. It is actually extremely cheap. There's some avenues you can go that is very, very cost effective. And yeah, so let's say you bought completely stock XR6 turbo, bought it for 10 grand, which is, you know, not at this current going rate, but what they were going for around about 6 months ago, and what they are predicted to get back down to in the future. Let's say you bought a $10,000 FG, not even that, you can even get a BA or a BF. Let's just go FG, $10,000 FG. literally, if you were to go with second-hand parts and just really try and save money exactly every single way you can usually get to around that 400 to 440 horsepower mark in around about $5,000. And then not only that, but going from that 440 horsepower mark, you can get a F6 turbo. If you already have an F6, then there you go, you've already got that. But F6 turbo, 3582, you can normally pick up for around about $600 to $1,200 depending on the condition of it. Head studs and valve springs probably about $1,000. And then you don't even need an extra fuel pump where you would normally go with a 440. You could even just use the same 460 fuel pump at 620 on E85. Yeah, there's like, it's pretty cost effective to get this sort of power out of these Barras, and completely unopened engine, oh well, apart from valve springs and head studs, there's not really much you need to do. One thing also that I will add that I also have for this car is a set of billet oil pump gears from Dominator Motorsports, and then I also have a full atomic timing kit ready to go on this car, which would probably push my thing down to more so 43,700-ish, maybe. Those parts would probably push that to the 43,700 range. But yeah, I haven't put them on the car just yet, so I didn't include it in the list, but it is coming on the car within the next month or so, which is really, really cool. We just have to drop the engine. So yeah. But yes, you can get away sometimes with 600 horsepower with a stock trans and completely stock driveline. There is one other thing I really want to get for this car, and that is a built tail shaft that is going to be hopefully coming on it very, very soon. But that depends on whether I want to keep this car or whether I want to sell it to fund future, things. At this current point in time, I have no future plans to build this car any further. I love the car, it's wicked, does everything it needs to do, it starts up every single time, it can drive down the road to the shops, I love it. It's pretty inconspicuous being a Falcon, there's thousands of them, parts are everywhere, but at the same time, like, I built this car and I've experienced this demographic and this style and everything else as well. I love it, I love it to pieces. And when you get out of like the people that just want to go down and burn off some tires and a BA running on 4 cylinders, there's actually a really, really nice bunch of people especially around the Brisbane area, and honestly all the way down the coast that I've been, where yeah, Australian car owners, just really nice people, really nice bunch of people, really keen to help you out. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the whole thing. But yeah, progressing forward, do I want to sell it? I'm not quite sure. If I was off the right money, probably yes. But there is definitely things that, if I was to open up my garage, I would prefer to see that in there over the Falcon. And like, there's only one way. Like at the moment, I've only sort of been really trying to work on my own cars for the last year or so. I've made a lot of mistakes, as I said before. I've had a lot of wins, had a lot of mistakes. There is cars that I would rather have in my garage and be working on and making mistakes on and fixing than my Falcon, if you guys get me. So yeah, there's always stuff I am willing to sort of, I don't know. There is definitely ways I want to progress both myself and the channel and everything else as well. Whether selling the Falcon is on the cards, I'm not quite sure. I'm very indecisive, I'm not quite sure. The Falcon will always have a bit of a soft spot, but yeah, also thinking about it in the coming years as well, whether my dream car, which is currently about $10,000 more expensive than what I could probably sell the Falcon for, whether it'll be worth the same in the future, like 3 years from now, how much will my dream car be worth and how much will the Falcon be worth. So yeah, it's just a little bit of a mental mind game that I'm going to have to play at the moment, but we'll see how we go. Alright, let's get into some questions real quick that you guys have left me on Instagram, just to see if there's anything I haven't covered in this video and what we can do. One really good question that I see a lot of people asking me in my videos, and I hope a lot of people watch this, is what is better, to buy an XS6 Turbo and sell the NA, or turbo the NA? One of the biggest things that I was having an issue with, especially turboing my NA, if I was going to, I was like tossing up whether I want to keep the NA, whether I want to turbo it. I was not quite sure what to do whatsoever. One of the biggest things that, it was going to be roughly about the same price to do it and get my friends involved and just have some fun with it. But the biggest thing I also didn't want to have to worry about is non-matching numbers. So thinking about insurance, thinking about registration, thinking about mod plates and everything else as well was just kind of like, okay, well, it's a bit of a headache. I'd rather just get a car that is a factory turbo and be able to register as a factory turbo and be able to insure it as a factory turbo. But yeah, it was going to be roughly about the same price, but a lot less headache just going to a turbo from the NA. And And there's people out there that want to keep their Renays because their Renays are nice and clean and they've spent like 3 years on their piece doing them up to be exactly how they want. But at the same time, Falcon parts are very easily interchangeable, and I did the entire panel swap, interior swap, everything else in my car. You can probably smash it out in probably about a week or so, and then your car literally looks exactly the same with matching numbers. So it works really well. When are the wheels getting a change up? I'm not quite sure actually. I have no plans to change up the wheels anytime soon. I love the grids on it. Even though they haven't been the most reliable wheels, I've had to repair them 3 times now. For the fact that I've had to repair an $1,800 set of 3 times at like $200 a pop, it still doesn't even equate to how much I would have spent on real T37s. So at the same time, I kind of love them because I don't really care if they get gutter rash too much, or if they get damaged up or rock chipped or anything else as well. And yeah, I have to, repair them every now and then. But at the end of the day, they're only worth $450, so it doesn't really matter. What's the best part about the Falcon? There's so many best parts about it. I just love the fact that I know that every single day, raining or shining, whether I want to drive all the way to Melbourne, whether I want to drive to the shops, it's up for whatever it is. It's going to be nice and comfy. I can listen to music, and if I want to go fast, it can go freaking fast. I will admit the car does scare me a lot to drive at the moment, especially with its 620, which is why I've been sticking on the 500 horsepower tune for a fair while now, just to get used to that. 500 horsepower is honestly plenty enough for me. It's a lot of horsepower in a 1.8 ton car. Getting some better tyres I definitely think would help, but at the same time, I don't think it's overbuilt, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have 600 horsepower Falcons that love it, but at the moment, for me and my driving style and everything else as well, I prefer a car that would sound nice and be slower than, yeah, go fast and spin tyres and scare me. So, I don't know. In the future, when I become a better driver, I'll definitely try to do a whole lot more in terms of like getting better clips for videos and stuff like that. But at this current point in time, with my skill level and what I think my driving ability is, I don't want to push the car in the street. How many times has it broken down on you? I want to know. The trans, and I think that's mainly the biggest thing, is just the trans. Oh yeah, when it caught fire, the trans, and there was another time as well, it was on a trailer. Oh no, just fire on the trans. That's everything. That's everything there. Why didn't I go manual instead? This is another question I get asked a hell of a lot. Main reason is I actually didn't get my manual license until earlier this year. One of the main reasons for that was because we didn't have a manual car to learn in back when I was younger. Back when I was 16, we had a XR6 Turbo Auto. My parents had one, and then my dad had the XC Cobra, but of course I actually went and drove that as my very first manual car, the XC Cobra, and it was quite an experience, but obviously we couldn't take that out every single time, and we just only had the auto. So I went out and got my auto license, and I said, okay, well, when I want to drive manual, or when I need to drive manual for a job or something like that, I'll go out and get my manual license. So that just happened to be early this year. So when I was actually going to look at Falcons, I just couldn't find a Breeze manual anywhere at all, whether it was BF or FG. So the auto came up, snagged it for a killer deal, and besides, autos are faster anyway. Not that I want it to be fast. To be honest, I'd probably prefer it to be manual now, but yeah. A lot of people are asking me, if I was to sell it, how much would I sell it for? That's a real big question, because it's not how much I would personally want to sell it for, it's how close could I get to funding the next car. Like, I have no want or need to sell it for a profit at all. I would want to sell it to fund my next car. So ideally, I would like to sell it for $40,000. I know it definitely won't fetch that money, but as close as I could possibly get to that sum, then probably yeah. I have heard of a lot of my mates selling off their 600 horsepower Falcons for around about the 30-ish mark, which is still really pushing it high up in price. But to be honest, if I was to sell it, I probably it wouldn't be worth me and the way that it has grown my YouTube channel so much to sell it for anything under 30 or 32-ish or something along those lines. So, hey, if someone wants to throw me a crazy offer, then certainly, because it will help me fund my new car. But at the same time, if it's going to help me future-proof my channel and future-proof myself and be a better idea financially for me to sell this car and get my dream car, then 100% yes, I'd be down. And I think that pretty much covers it. Yeah, that's mainly covered every single question that has been coming up on Instagram and Facebook and just everywhere, YouTube comments and everything. So I hope you guys really have enjoyed it. This has been a very long video, I'm sorry, but I hope you guys have really enjoyed it and hope you guys get a better understanding on the Falcon. Moving forward from here, sticky tyres all around, and we'll just see what we can do with it. I definitely want to try and get it out to more track events and just try and enjoy the car a whole lot more, because it hasn't been out there for almost 4 or 5 months now since it's been down, maybe almost closer to 6. I don't know, I'm kind of getting to the point with the car now where it kind of just stays in the garage. I'd much rather drive the Skyline because it's more fun, but at the end of the day, I know I need a nice reliable car. This is definitely my nice reliable car. I like to think of it as like Adam LZ's BMW 335i, because it always works, it always runs, and if he wants to drive it, it's kind of nostalgic, but it'd be cool to just park it up and enjoy it. Yep. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and yeah, if you guys do like this video, please consider subscribing and liking this video, I really appreciate it. I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.